Gilberto Ventura Ceballos was a criminal with a long history of crime. He escaped from a prison in the Dominican Republic and eventually arrived in Panama, where he lived under false identities and continued committing crimes because he believed he would never be caught. For his new offenses, he enlisted the help of his friend Alcibiades Mendez. Together, they abducted and murdered 5 young people. Gilberto Ventura Ceballos was born on July 6, 1975 in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. He entered Panama on July 15, 2008, on a 3-month tourist visa while fleeing justice in his home country. He used false documents under the name Fermin Antonio Taveras Ramirez. This was not the only identity associated with him. Reports also linked him to the names Fermin Taveras, Angel Betancourt, Henry Herrera Ceballos, and Carlos Alberto Aguirre Valencia. These false identities helped him conceal his criminal past and move between countries. His preferred targets were members of Chinese business communities. According to records cited in reports about his past, in 2003, he defrauded the owners of an educational institution of 88,000 Dominican pesos. He was arrested for the fraud and spent several weeks in prison. In October 2004, he was arrested again and sentenced to 20 years in prison for abducting a Chinese merchant named Vani Han, whose family reportedly paid 500,000 Dominican pesos for his release. Ventura carried out that abduction by posing as a police officer. A retired soldier allegedly assisted him and threatened the victim with a handgun. Released. The merchant said that he had not been physically tortured, but had suffered severe psychological abuse because his captors threatened to kill him every day. When they finally let him go, they abandoned him in bushes in an isolated area without assistance. Ventura was arrested and prosecuted, but he did not serve the sentence because he escaped from prison on November 30, 2004. He remained hidden in the Dominican Republic for several years. Convinced that the police could arrest him at any moment, he eventually decided to leave for Panama. After arriving in Panama, Ventura continued using a false name. With those documents, he opened a bank account and began working as a salesman in a store. After some time, he met a woman, fell in love with her, and married her. Through the mobile phone trade in La Chorrera, he became acquainted with a Dominican man named Alcibiades Mendez, who was widely known as Jose Celular. Mendez had arrived in Panama years earlier and operated mobile phone businesses. He had also faced problems with the authorities over unpaid child support and alleged fraud, although no action had prevented him from continuing his business activities. After the two men had built mutual trust, Ventura proposed a criminal partnership. His plan was to target the Chinese community again, this time in Panama. He wanted to abduct the children of successful Chinese merchants and demand large ransoms. Mendez agreed. Ventura had already faced accusations of fraud in Panama, but one complaint had ended in a private settlement. Nevertheless, continued looking for ways to obtain money quickly through crime. The first victim of Ventura and Mendez was 18-year-old Yesenia Argelis Lucam, the daughter of the owners of a well-known store in La Chorrera. Yesenia was a highly motivated student at the Technological University of Panama and earned excellent grades. She dreamed of working in Panamanian television. From an early age, she balanced her studies with helping in her parents' store, and local shopkeepers knew and respected her. Investigators concluded that the two men planned their crimes for months before carrying out the first abduction on October 20th, 2010. Early that morning, Yesenia left the apartment above her parents' store, got into her car, and headed to the university. There were few vehicles on the road. The abductors used two cars, one driven by Mendez and another driven by Ventura. They followed Yesenia along Avenida Las Americas until they were close to her route to the university. Mendez deliberately struck the rear of Yesenia's car and got out. She stopped and lowered the window. She recognized him because he worked in the same mobile business environment as her family and was familiar to her. While she focused on Mendez, Ventura approached from the second vehicle with a handgun. He pointed the weapon at her, restrained her, and forced her into the kidnapper's vehicle. They then took her to a rented house in the El Trapichito sector of La Chorrera. At the house, the offenders confined Yesenia in a pit that had been prepared beneath the floor near the bathroom area. They recorded her, asking her family to pay a ransom and warning them not to contact the police. The kidnappers demanded $200,000. Her family could not raise that amount and offered $25,000. The negotiations continued for 2 days, but no agreement was reached. On October 22, 2010, Ventura decided to kill Yesenia. He told Mendez to go outside and set off strings of firecrackers. When Mendez returned, he found that Ventura had already shot her. The explosions were intended to conceal the gunshot. The two men covered her body with soil and later sealed the pit beneath the floor. After Yesenia was killed, communication between the kidnappers and her family stopped. Her relatives did not know what had happened and continued hoping that she was alive. They printed missing person posters and placed them near their home and in other parts of the city. The family later told the media that when they first received the ransom call, they had believed it might be a cruel joke. When they received the recording of Yesenia, however, they understood that the danger was real. For months, they received no reliable information about her fate. About a month and a half after the first abduction, Ventura and Mendez struck again. Their second victim was 27-year-old Yong Jian Wu, known as Ken, who owned a business called Novedades Angelina. On December 9, 2010, he met Mendez to complete what he believed was a purchase of several BlackBerry mobile phones. The offer was a trap designed to bring him to the house in El Trapichito, where Ventura was waiting. Ventura drew a handgun while Mendez restrained, handcuffed, and gagged Ken. They transported him into the house concealed inside a large plastic water tank so that neighbors would not become suspicious. They placed him in another pit, this one prepared beneath the kitchen floor, and forced him to record a ransom message. The kidnappers initially demanded $400,000. Ken's wife, who was pregnant with their second child, and other relatives negotiated with the abductors. The final ransom was $83,000. The family delivered the money on December 14, 2010, after being led through a complicated series of instructions intended to expose any police surveillance. They were told that Ken would be released within hours. The family waited, but he never returned. After collecting the ransom, Ventura gave Mendez $20,000 for his role in the crime. Once again, Mendez went outside and set off firecrackers. When he returned, Ken had been shot in the head. The two men buried him beneath the kitchen floor and covered the area with soils and concrete. Even though the global positioning system on Ken's phone reportedly continued indicating the El Trapichito area, the authorities did not locate him there. His family later accused the police of failing to act effectively on that crucial information. Because the criminals had received money from Ken's family, they decided to plan another abduction. Their next target was 19-year-old Sammy Zeng Chen, the eldest of three sons of a well-known La Chorrera businessman. Ventura and Mendez followed him for days, but their surveillance was so conspicuous that people in the area noticed them. On September 6, 2011, the men waited near Sammy's home. Someone called the police because their vehicles appeared suspicious and obstructed a security camera. Officers arrived, recorded Mendez's information, and then allowed both men to leave. The intervention did not stop the plan. The following morning, September 7, 2011, the offenders followed Sammy's car onto the Araijan La Chorrera highway and struck it from behind. This time, Sammy was not alone. His girlfriend, Georgina del Carmen Lee Chen, and his childhood friend, Joel Mauricio Lu Wong, were traveling with him. Georgina was an engineering student and had been dating Sammy for approximately 11 months. Joel had attended school and university with Sammy. Although the presence of three people had not been part of the original plan, Ventura and Mendez continued. When Sammy got out to inspect the damage, Mendez threatened him with a weapon. Ventura subdued Georgina and Joel. The kidnappers handcuffed. The three young people covered their mouths and eyes with tape, threatened them with weapons, and transported them to the same house in El Trapichito. Inside the house, the three victims were placed in a pit prepared beneath the floor of a bedroom. They were forced to record ransom messages. Ventura left to contact their families, while Mendez remained at the house to guard them. Sammy struggled and made noise. Mendez stabbed him in the left leg in an attempt to silence him. The blade damaged a major vein in his thigh, causing fatal blood loss. After Sammy died, the offenders decided that Georgina had also become a liability. She was handcuffed and buried alive beside Sammy's body. Joel was kept alive for several more days so that the kidnappers could continue negotiating. Although they used Joel to provide proof of life, their main demand was directed at the families of the three abducted students. They initially demanded $2 million. After several days of negotiations, the families agreed to pay $160,000. The first planned delivery was abandoned because Ventura believed the families were being followed by police vehicles. A later delivery was arranged in a grassy area marked with red bags. Mendez collected the money, while Ventura directed the operation by telephone. After the payment was received, Joel was killed by suffocation and buried beside his friends. In total, the criminals collected $243,000 from the ransoms connected to Ken and the final three victims. The red bags used to mark the ransom route became an important clue. Sammy's father went to nearby stores and asked whether anyone had bought an unusually large number of red bags. He obtained surveillance camera footage showing a man making such a purchase and recognized him as Alcibiades Mendez, whom he knew from the local mobile phone trade. The family gave this information to the police. On September 14, 2011, officers arrested Mendez at the home of his former partner, Inés Torres, in La Chorrera. By then, Ventura had already fled Panama. Mendez confessed and gave investigators a detailed account of the crimes. On September 15th, he led the authorities to the rented house in El Trapichito, where the bodies of all 5 victims were found buried beneath the floors. Forensic examinations established that Yesenia and Ken had died from gunshot wounds to the head. Sammy died from massive blood loss after the stab wound damaged a major vein in his thigh. Georgina and Joel died from asphyxiation after being buried alive. Mendez did not deny his participation and later apologized to the victims' families. Ventura was captured in the Dominican Republic on November 17, 2011. He had changed his appearance by lightening or altering his hair and had scars on his fingertips. Investigators believed that he had deliberately injured his fingertips in an effort to prevent identification through fingerprints. He was found hiding inside a water tank at a house in the Boca Chica area. The Dominican authorities agreed to transfer Ventura to Panama on the condition that he would not receive a sentence exceeding the maximum punishment then applicable in the Dominican Republic, which was 30 years. He was transferred to Panama and prosecuted there. Unlike Mendez, Ventura consistently denied involvement and claimed that members of the Panamanian police or military had committed the crimes. Several other people were arrested in connection with the ransom money and actions taken after the crimes. The accused included Ines Magalis Torres Flores, her sister Delmira Edith Torres, Ines Madelines Chavarria Torres, Kayla Giselle Bendibu Salazar, Mario Luis Vega, Kenny Alexander Bendibu Salazar, Roberto Antonio Mariscal Rodriguez, and others. Investigators alleged that some of them helped exchange, conceal, or spend marked ransom money, while others helped cover the burial sites with flooring. Handcuffs, ammunition, cash, and belongings linked to the victims were also found during the investigation. The judicial process moved extremely slowly. In September 2015, 4 years after the bodies had been discovered, and with no final judgment, members of Panama's Chinese community held a memorial service for the victims. Community representatives said they felt betrayed because the authorities had promised a thorough and rapid investigation, yet years had passed without justice. Some relatives reportedly had to sell businesses and suffered serious health and emotional problems after the tragedy. Ventura had no intention of remaining in custody. He had already escaped from prison in the Dominican Republic, and in Panama he began planning another escape. On December 28, 2016, he escaped from La Joyita prison during what was presented as a meeting with a lawyer. The escape involved serious security irregularities. Although Ventura was being held under high security conditions, he was moved to an area with weaker controls. Surveillance footage and statements from prison employees later indicated that Ventura and a female lawyer entered a kitchen area where he changed his appearance. He put on a wig and women's clothing and walked out of the prison. The authorities offered a reward of $50,000 and launched a major search. Investigators accused the lawyer and other accomplices of helping arrange the escape. The plan allegedly involved renting a vehicle, obtaining a wig and women's clothing, and bribing a police officer and a prison guard so that Ventura could enter the kitchen and leave the facility. During the first trial hearings in June 2017, Ventura remained at large. At those hearings, Alcibiades Mendez apologized to the victims' families and to the people of Panama. He said that Ventura had organized the abductions, selected the targets, handled the negotiations with the families, killed the first two victims, and ordered or participated in the deaths of the final three. Mendez attempted to portray himself as a subordinate participant, although he admitted his own direct involvement, including the fatal stabbing of Sammy. Ventura was recaptured on September 22, 2017, in Jaco, Costa Rica. He was using false documents under the name Carlos Alberto Aguirre Valencia. After being returned to Panama, he again denied responsibility for the 5 murders. In a judgment dated June 22, 2018, Panama's Second Superior Court sentenced Gilberto Ventura Ceballos and Alcibiades Mendez to 50 years in prison each for aggravated intentional homicide and kidnapping in connection with the deaths of Yesenia Argelis Lu Cam, Yong Jen Wu, Sammy Zheng Chen, Georgina del Carmen Lee Chen, and Joel Mauricio Lu Wang. Other defendants received sentences or acquittals according to the court's findings regarding their roles. Ventura later received an additional prison sentence for escape and criminal conspiracy. Because the Dominican Republic had conditioned Ventura's transfer on a maximum sentence of 30 years, Panama's Supreme Court later reduced his 50-year sentence for the 5 murders to 30 years. The reduction was based on the International Transfer Agreement, not on a finding that he was innocent. Ventura's story still did not end there. On February 3, 2020, he escaped from the high-security La Nueva Joya prison. It was his 3rd known prison escape, when the earlier escape in the Dominican Republic was included. Investigators found evidence suggesting that people inside the prison had helped him, and surveillance footage raised further questions about security failures. After a nationwide manhunt, Ventura was recaptured on February 13, 2020, near El Salado in the district of Remedios, Chiriquí province. He appeared dehydrated and was transported under heavy security to Panama City. After a medical examination, he was returned to custody. The escape led to the resignation of Panama's public security minister and the dismissal of the government minister. The case exposed numerous inconsistencies and alleged failures by law enforcement agencies. Representatives of Panama's Chinese community said that authorities ignored important clues. The most frequently cited example involved Ken's mobile phone, whose global positioning data allegedly showed its location in El Trapichito in real time. His wife passed that information to the police, but it did not lead to a timely rescue. In the end, Gilberto Ventura Ceballos and Alcibiades Mendez abducted and murdered 5 young people for money. Even from prison, Ventura continued looking for ways to profit from the notoriety of the case. Reports revealed that he had worked on a book about the crimes, provisionally titled The Lens of Truth. Thank you for watching, and please take care of yourselves.